Since I don't have grading to do before Friday, we will have a quiz on Friday because hopefully we'll finish Oedipus today. So we're going to pick up, we left off somewhere on 1452, 1453. Oedipus is talking with Tiresias, and Tiresias essentially says, just let me alone. Just let me go. I don't want to talk to you. I know some things. You don't want to know them, etc., etc. Okay? And bottom of 1452, Oedipus says, in response to Tiresias saying, say as you want, build your anger, etc. He says, I'll let loose. I have such fury in me, now I see it all. Okay? I have such fury in me, now I see it all. What's he mean by now I see it all? Because he's going to follow that up with making an accusation. All right? He jumps to a wild conclusion. And that conclusion is that Tiresias was involved in the murder of lions. He says, you helped hatch the plot. You did the work, yes. Short of killing him with your own hands, and given eyes, I'd say you did the killing single-handed. That is, if you had eyes, if you were able to see, you'd have done the killing yourself. Tiresias. Really? It's mine. Is that so? Tiresias says. All right, now you get it. I charge you then, submit to that decree you just laid down. What was the decree? Find the murderer, banish him. Okay? What else? Don't talk to him. Don't help him. Don't give him any aid or assistance. Totally shun that individual. That's what Tiresias is referring to. Okay? From this day onward, speak to no one, not these citizens, not myself. You are the curse, the corruption of the land. Now, notice neither of them, obviously, they lived 2,000 years before Shakespeare writes Hamlet, but neither of them are following Polonius's advice to his son. In that advice, what was one of the pieces of advice Polonius said? Give no man your censure, or give no man your voice, okay? But he said, take every man his censure and don't respond. All right? So, what did we just see Tiresias do? He heard Oedipus, he heard Oedipus say, you're involved in the murder, and what does he do? He just responds. He doesn't say, think what you want. All right? He responds, and Oedipus thinks he's merely responding in like manner. I accuse you of murder, therefore you say, oh yeah, well you're the murderer. That's essentially what Oedipus thinks. You're shameless. You think you can get away with this. He says, I have already. The truth with all its power lives inside me. Okay? Then Oedipus jumps to another conclusion. And these aren't little, conclusions that he's jumping to via skipping a single step. It's like he's jumping over multiple steps to reach these conclusions. Who put you up to this? Okay? And he's going to go right to crayon. Okay? So, who primed you for this? Not your prophet's trade. He's suggesting Tiresias makes money out of being a prophet. Earlier, he said, you're our savior. You're the only one who can help us, etc. Okay? So, Tiresias, you don't get it? You don't understand? I say you are, line 412 or so, I say you are the murderer you hunt. That obscenity twice. Okay, twice now you've said, I'm a murderer. Okay? What should Oedipus do at this point? Read into the play. What should he do?
Just walk away.
Okay, just walk away. What else? I'm asking you a question based upon assuming you've read the whole play. Now it's hot. I turned it up to 2 degrees. Assuming you've read all the play, well, I've talked about the rest of the play, what does Oedipus know about his past? Louder?
He's killed Elias.
Does he know he killed Elias?
No, just like a beggar.
No, he knows he killed a guy, however. All right? And he knows, and we're going to talk about this very shortly, he killed a guy at a place where 3 roads meet. That place is going to be named, in just a few moments, Phokis. All right? But he knows he's killed somebody. So now, Tiresias has said twice, you're the murderer of Elias. What should Oedipus do? He should stop for a moment and say, is there any chance that the guy I killed was Elias? Well, how long ago was it? We're told in the opening that it's been many years since Oedipus became king. How many years? Well, the audience would know, because they're familiar with the story before the play, the audience would know that at this point in time, Oedipus has several children. He's got 2 daughters and multiple sons. If I remember correctly, 7 sons. The 2 daughters are both minors. That is, they're not old enough to take care of themselves. The 7 sons, they're all older. They're able to care for themselves. They're probably in their 20s. That means, however old the oldest son is, that's at least how long it's been since Oedipus became king. Because all of his children are born from the queen of Thebes, who's his mother. Okay? So he should pause. Yeah, don't go there. He should pause and think, is there any chance? Okay, so Tiresias says, you want more? That is, you want to be really angry? Just wait. Shall I say more so you can really rage? Go ahead. You cannot imagine. I tell you, you and your loved ones live together in infamy. Okay? You cannot imagine. He's saying, Oedipus, you are totally oblivious to what is really going on in that house, in that palace. You and your loved ones. Who are his loved ones? Well, obviously his wife and his children. You live in infamy. You cannot see how far you've gone in guilt. What? Okay, you cannot see. He's saying, Oedipus, you are blind. Notice, Tiresias is the blind one who sees. Oedipus is the sighted one who's blind as a bat. He can't see anything. Okay? You think you can keep this up and not suffer? In other words, you think you can keep saying these things and not suffer my wrath? Tiresias, indeed, if the truth has any power. He's saying, I've got the truth on my side. Where does Tiresias, quote unquote, get his truth? From the gods. Okay? So, Oedipus says it does. But not for you, old man. You've lost your power. Stone blind, stone deaf, senses, eyes, blind as stone. You can't be more wrong. Tiresias. I pity you, flinging at me the very insults each man here will fling at you so soon. In other words, Tiresias is like, you just babble on, and you don't realize everything you say is going to reflect on you. Everything Oedipus has said from the beginning of the play, all is what? It all applies to him. And he's totally oblivious. Okay? So what does Tiresias mean? The very insults you throw at me are going to be thrown at you. He's foreshadowing. That's the other day, I put up forth-telling and telling forth. Okay? Telling forth, speaking the truth now. The phrase, speak truth to power, that's the telling forth. Forth-telling is telling it before it happens. That's prophesied. He's prophesying here. He's saying, Oedipus, you're going to leave here blind, physically blind. You will have no eyes. Because in the play, he gouges them out. All right? So, Oedipus, blind, lost in the night, endless night that nursed you. You're the one who's blind. You can't hurt me or anyone else who sees the light. You can never touch me. He says, you're right. You're right. I can't touch you. Why? It is not your fate to fall at my hands. Apollo's quite enough. That is, Apollo is going to essentially exact your fate. Okay? So, Oedipus, notice now, he asked the question earlier, who put you up to this? Tiresias never addresses it. And Oedipus, skipping several steps again, jumps to a conclusion. Crayon. Why does he assume Crayon? Well, that's what he thinks. He thinks Crayon wants to be king. Does he have any evidence of that? No. None. So why does he assume Crayon? Well, who did he send to the oracle, Crayon? And who might have been sent to get Tiresias? We're not told exactly that, but it might have been Crayon. Okay? So he jumps to Crayon. And he says, Crayon's not your downfall. You don't need to worry about him. You're kind of justify him. All right? So they keep going back and forth. And page 1454, line 443. Oedipus addresses Tiresias. And notice now what he says about him and about his craft. His craft meaning his ability to prophesy. Come here, you pious fraud. Tell me, when did you ever prove yourself a prophet? That is, when have you ever proven right? Well, according to Greek literature that survives, Tiresias figures in a lot of the ancient Greek literature. For example, Tiresias is a character in Homer's The Odyssey, if I remember correctly. Almost positive. Yeah, I know he is. He figures in a lot of other dramas. And guess what? He's always right. When he utters a prophecy, it happens. You can bank on it. If he uttered a prophecy about the stock market, sell everything you have to buy that stock, because he's never been wrong. So why does Oedipus now say, when did you ever prove yourself a prophet? Is Oedipus thinking clearly? No. How's he acting? Rashly, impulsively. Where do we see that begin? Almost with his opening speech. If I don't find the murderer, if the murderer isn't outed, let this curse fall on my house. That's not a very prudent statement to make. Okay? So he goes on and just says all kinds of bad things about Tiresias. Where were you with the riddle of the Sphinx? Blah, 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 blah. All right? The leader, when Oedipus finishes, the leader of the chorus then says, line 460, I think he spoke in anger. In other words, cut him some slack. You angered him. He responded in kind. He's kind of saying, forgive him for that. And then he says, Oedipus, yours too. And it isn't what we need. What's the yours too? Your comments are in anger. Not what we need right now. What do we need right now? We need a solution to the coronavirus, right? They need a solution to the play. So, we should look for the riddle, the solution to the riddle. Tiresias, it's like Tiresias just totally blows off the leader of the chorus. You're the king, no doubt, but in one respect at least, I'm your equal. I have the right to reply. That is, in Greek society, he's saying, you're the king, you have all the authority, but according to our customs and our traditions, I have a right to defend myself. Okay? And so he's getting ready. He's going to give them both barrels. You mock my blindness? All right. Listen to this. You, with your precious eyes, you're blind to the corruption of your life, to the house you live in, those you live with. Who are your parents? What? If this were a student essay, I would write right there. Non sequitur. It does not follow, is what non sequitur means. Why is that it does not follow? A non sequitur. Why bring up his parents? What do his parents have to do with anything? Later on, we find out they have everything to do with it. Okay? So he just kind of throws that little nugget out there. Why? To plant the idea into Oedipus's mind. And it just kind of sits, since I mentioned the coronavirus, it just kind of sits there like a virus. And what does a virus do? It digs into the cell. And so this thing digs into his mind and it just sits there for a moment. Because, when is it? On the next page, Oedipus is going to say, who is my father? So Tiresias plants that idea, and then he goes on. So, who are your parents? Do you know? All unknowing. You are the scourge of your own flesh and blood, the dead below the earth, the living here above. And the double lash of your mother and your father's curse will whip you from this land one day. Okay, so when Tiresias is talking, I think Oedipus is standing there and he's listening, but he's probably not listening carefully. Because what do most people do when they get into a really hot and heated argument? If you're quiet while the other person's talking, what are you doing while you're quiet?
Thinking of a response.
Exactly. You're getting ready to fire back. Okay? Do you know who your parents are? And he goes on and he talks about this curse. Okay? Soon you'll scream aloud. What haven won't reverberate? What rock of Kithaeron won't scream back in echo? Kithaeron, you've got the gloss. The mountains where Oedipus was abandoned as an infant. It was standard operating procedure in ancient Greece. If a family had a child they didn't want, buy the child, throw the child on a mountain, and let the wild animals have them. It still happens today, by the way, in several countries around the world. India being the worst for little girls. Family already has a girl. The mother delivers a female child. They'll abandon it. They'll literally throw it out in the street. Okay? So, by bringing up Kithaeron, he's alluding again to part of Oedipus's background. But this part, Oedipus is totally unaware of. Okay? So, the day you learn the truth about your marriage, the wedding march that sang you into your halls, that is, the wedding march that marched you into your palace, the lusty voyage home to the fatal harbor. Home. He's saying the real home. The harbor that you think of as, a place of peace. It's his real home. Right? So he says, and a load of other horrors you'd never dream will level you with yourself and all your children. I could tell you things, Oedipus, that would destroy you, but you will be destroyed. Okay? There, I'm done. Now have at it. Go ahead, respond. Oedipus, get him out of here. but you ordered me to. I tried to leave, but you ordered me to speak. If I thought you'd blurt out such absurdities, 494, you'd have died waiting. Absurd? Absurd am I to you, not to your parents. The ones who bore you found me sane enough. How do we know? Or, what does he mean? Again, the information that we, as new experiencers of the story, will come later. Sophocles' audience understood automatically what Tiresias meant. Right? And here's what Tiresias is getting at. I spoke to your parents before you were born. What is it he speaks? He's the one who speaks the prophecy to them. That in about 5 pages, Jocasta is going to tell them about. Oedipus' wife / queen. Okay? To you, not to your parents, the ones who bore you found me sane enough. Parents? Who? Wait. Who is my father? Why has he asked the question now? Well, again, from what we get told later in the play, what has Oedipus already heard once in his life? Actually, twice. Once he hears it from a drunk, and the second time he hears it directly from the oracle at Delphi itself. You are fated to kill your father and sleep with your mother. Okay? So he runs away from home. So now he asks, who are my parents? This day will bring your birth and your destruction. Why this day? Everything, again, happens within one single 24-hour period. It's the unity of time that Aristotle talked about. Riddles, all you can say are riddles. Murk and darkness. In other words, speak clearly. Tell me what you mean. Tiresias, yeah, but you're the riddle master, aren't you? I mean, you solved the riddle of the Sphinx. Shouldn't you be able to solve this problem? It's a good question. Okay? So, Tiresias says, I'm leaving. Take me home, boy. He starts to leave. And Oedipus says, yes, take him away. You're a nuisance here. Out of the way. The irritation's gone. And he turns his back on Tiresias, and he starts to make his way towards the palace to go inside. And Tiresias gets his parting shot. Now notice, while Tiresias says most of this, Oedipus has not yet gone inside the palace. So he hears it. Okay? He doesn't hear the very end of it, however. So, here's what he hears. I will go once I've said what I came here to say. I'll never shrink from the anger in your eyes. You can't destroy me. That is, I'm not afraid of you. You can't hurt me. And I think kind of what that implies is Tiresias knows how he's going to die. And he's not going to die at Oedipus' hands. So, I'm not afraid of you at all. Listen to me closely. The man you've sought so long, proclaiming, cursing up and down, the murderer of Laius, he is here. Now, here just means somewhere between where Tiresias is and all the other men that are there, including all the chorus. Okay? A stranger, you may think, who lives among you, he soon will be revealed, a native Theban, but he will take no joy in the revelation. Why a stranger? Well, Oedipus said, I am now like a native Theban, because he's lived there so long. So Tiresias says, you think he's a stranger, the murderer of Laius, but you're going to find out, no, he's native born to Thebes. Blind, who now has eyes, beggar, who now is rich, he will grope his way toward a foreign soil, a stick tapping before him step by step. It's a riddle, right? So solve the riddle. And Oedipus goes inside the doors, and the doors are slammed closed. revealed, so Oedipus doesn't hear this part. The audience does. Chorus does. Revealed at last, brother and father both, to the children he embraces. Ew, right? I mean, that's the gross factor. To his mother, son and husband both. He sowed the loins his father sowed. He spilled his father's blood. Notice, he's not just saying the stranger, the stranger, the stranger. I kind of think, if I were directing this, Tiresias points. He's blind, but he knows where the palace is. And he's telling everybody. It's Oedipus. Go on, reflect about that. Solve that if you can. Okay? Tiresias leaves. Chorus gets a big, long speech. Okay? And notice how the chorus says, line 550, I'm skipping a bunch. The skilled prophet scans the bird, shatters me with terror. I can't accept him, can't deny him, don't know what to say. In other words, the prophet scans the birds, cuts the birds open, dumps the guts out, reads what the signs say, and he's always been right. So, I can't accept him. That is, I can't believe what he's telling us. Because if he's telling us, and Oedipus is the murderer of Laius, whew, that's really bad, right? But I can't deny him either, right? Because he's always been right. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. Okay? So Creon comes in. Why? What apparently has happened. Somebody ran off to Creon. Oedipus is accusing you of being involved in the murder of Laius. And so he comes out and says, what's this? Leader, yeah, he did. But a slur might have been forced out of him by anger, perhaps. He didn't really mean it. That's the not any firm conviction. He didn't mean it. He just, blowing steam. Creon. But he said it publicly. That's, which one is it? Slander, I think, if it's oral, libel, if it's in print. It's slander. He slandered my name. Yeah, well, some things were said. I don't know if he really meant it. Was his glance steady? That is, his eyes weren't rolling. He wasn't, frothing at the mouth. He's not crazy. No, I never look to judge the ones in power. What's the leader doing here? The leader's being a weasel. The leader's not wanting to take any kind of stand. Why? Well, because Oedipus can have him killed. And he doesn't want to say anything bad about Tiresias, because Tiresias is kind of tight with the gods. And you don't want to get the gods angry at you. So he's kind of, trying to play both sides, sit on the fence. Oedipus comes in. Okay? And Oedipus essentially accuses him. Bottom of 1457, line 607. Creon, are you quite finished? Are you done yet? Okay, now shut up, listen to me. And they go back and forth quite a bit. Okay? And Oedipus mentions Laius, middle of 1458. 624, Creon, Laius? Why are you talking about Laius? Well, vanished, swept from sight, etc., etc. Right? They keep going back and forth. And Oedipus, again, through this back and forth, says, you're involved in the murder. And he does that because 643, learn your fill. This is Oedipus. Learn your fill. You never will convict me of the murder. Because Tiresias says implied, you're the murderer. So Oedipus is saying, you've got to be involved. You're not going to get me convicted. Okay? Creon. Creon tries to slow Oedipus down for a moment. He says, listen, you're married to my sister, right? Whatever. A genuine discovery. Ooh, you're really bright. Okay. You're married to my sister. You rule the land with her with equal power, which, by the way, is odd. A woman in ancient Greece at this point would not have any power. But he's saying, Oedipus, Jocasta, you rule the land equally, right? He says, yes. And I'm the third. And we're all equals, right? He says, yes. Notice, Creon doesn't say, and I rule the land. Oedipus and Jocasta rule. They deal with all the headaches of rule. Creon doesn't. Okay? He's like, just shut up, listen to me for a moment. Look at it this way. Look at it from my perspective. Who in his right mind, top of 1459, would rather rule and live in anxiety than sleep in peace? You're the king, you rule, and you live in anxiety. Your whole life is nothing but anxiousness. He says, me? I sleep in peace. Why? I don't have to deal with the problems of the citizens. I don't have to deal with the problems of transportation, immigration, money, politics, whatever. Creon's saying, you two have all the problems, but I get all the perks of power. Translated to our contemporary situation, he'd be saying it's like, you two are Donald and Melania, and I don't, make up a brother for Melania, Ivan, And he says, and I get to fly Air Force One whenever I want. I get to go to whatever country on the government's dime whenever I want. I get all the best seats in the house. I get all the perks that go with the job without having to deal with Congress or the media or anybody else. Who's got it made in this situation? Who wouldn't want to be Creon? I would. Okay? He doesn't have to work. So he says, why would I want your job? Why would I have killed Laius? Right? 676. You want proof? Go to Delphi yourself. Go to the oracle yourself and ask it. Did Claudius and Tiresias plot against Laius? It'll answer. The answer may not be yes. The answer might be a riddle. Okay, it's one of the problems. Examine the oracle, see if I've reported the message word for word. Go and say, is this what you told Creon? Okay. The leader, that's good advice. You should listen to that, Oedipus. For anyone who wants to avoid disaster, those who jump to conclusions may be wrong. Notice what the leader does not explicitly say. Those who jump to conclusions may be wrong. He doesn't say, Oedipus, you jumped to a conclusion, and you are wrong. Okay? Oedipus, yeah, well, when my enemy moves against me quickly, plots in secret, I move quickly too. I must. I plot and pay him back. In other words, Oedipus says, I've got to act quickly. Maybe a little wrong. Okay? So, Creon, what do you want? What do you want from me? You want me banished? No, I want you dead. Wow, that's to the point at least. Okay? So they keep arguing back and forth. And then notice, Jocasta comes from the palace. So doors open, she walks out. Look at what she says. Okay? And get the feeling for how she says it. So the leader says, here comes Jocasta. Jocasta, have you no sense? Poor misguided men, such shouting. Why this public outburst? Who/what does she sound like? You're grinning.
Mom.
She sounds like a mom. What are you yelling about out here? You boys keep it down. That's what it's like. And then she looks at Oedipus. Into the palace, now. That's mom. It's also wife to husband. Get it. Creon, go home. Older sister, younger sister? Why? You're grinning. Those of you who have older sisters, you know why I asked that question. I'm the youngest of 5. I've got 3 older sisters and 1 older brother. And the oldest sister was bossy. Oldest sister was always, I mean, she not only commands her husband, get in the house, but she tells her brother, leave. Younger sisters don't generally do that, especially to older brothers, okay? She commands some authority here. Crayon, your husband accused me, and so they talk back and forth. And we're going to skip a bunch. Page 1461, bottom of the page. She says to Oedipus, okay, Oedipus, what is it? What's bothering you? Why this rage? You're so unbending. Unbending. You're so rigid. You're so set in your ways. You familiar with the Aesop's fable about the mighty oak tree and the reed? There's a mighty oak tree and there's a reed, and a big old windstorm blows through. Tornado, Nashville, okay? What happens to the oak tree? Boom, it's down. The reed, it blows in the wind, and then it stands back up. And the whole purpose, the whole moral of that Aesop's fable is when bad stuff happens, take the punches, roll with the punches, and then get back up. Because if you're rigid and firm like the oak tree, you're going to die. Okay? So she's saying, why are you so rigid? And he says, I'll tell you. And he looks at the chorus. Crayon! Come on. Calm down. Tell me what's wrong. He sent a prophet. And she's like, a prophet? Really? Listen to me. Line 780. And learn some peace of mind. No skill in the world, nothing human can penetrate the future. That is, no human can see the future. Where does Tiresias, let me rephrase. Where does Tiresias' ability to see the future come from? It's not himself. It's from the gods. So she says, no human person can see the future. Tiresias would say, you're right. Unless the gods give him that ability, or her that ability. Because there is a famous Greek prophetess named Cassandra, right? So, she says, you want proof? Here's proof. An oracle came to Laius and I. And the oracle said what? Doom would strike him down at the hands of a son, our son, in fact, to be born of our own flesh and blood. But Laius, so the story goes, was killed by a band of strangers. And my son, our son, he wasn't even 3 days old when Laius took him, bound him by the ankles, and threw him on the mountain. What's going on in Oedipus' mind at this point? Oh, shit. Why? Sounds pretty similar to a prophecy he heard. Bound him by the ankles. What's his name? Oedipus. What does it mean? Clubfoot. How so? Because when he was born, it doesn't mean he was bound by the ankles. They got some twine. Because, with a 3-day-old, you could use thread to tie that baby's ankles, and the baby's not going to be able to move its legs. No. They didn't do that. They took the baby's ankles, put them like on an anvil or a block of wood with a spike, and drove the spike through the ankles, through both. Right? Then, later, that spike gets removed, and if you know anything about what bones do to heal, the bones ossify. They create more bony material on the inside and outside of both ankles. That's why he's club-footed and walks with a limp. Okay? So, Oedipus, line 800. Strange hearing you just now. My mind wandered, my thoughts racing back and forth. Back to what? When he was younger? The drunk at the party? You're going to kill your father. Actually, the drunk didn't say that. The drunk said, you're not an orphan. You're adopted. Thank you. And he's like, what? And he goes to the oracle, and the oracle tells him what's going to happen. She says, why? What do you mean? Why so anxious? So racing back, what's it also racing back to? Well, I did kill a man once. And forth to right now. You said Laius was cut down on a place for 3 roads meat? She says, yeah. Where? Name it. Why? Because there might be more places where 3 roads meet. Oh, a place called Phokis, 2 branching roads. Okay. One from Dahlia, one from Delphi. I think, when? How long ago was this? Let's see. Heralds reported Laius was ill, and then you showed up. My God. My God. What have you planned to do to me? What is that? That's Aristotle's. It's the beginning of it, at least. Recognition. That's Oedipus going, oh, crap. I'm so screwed. She says, what's wrong? What haunts you? Not yet. Why? He's not accepting all of this yet. Laius. How do you look? Describe him. Had he reached his prime? He was swarthy. He was Greek. Of course he is swarthy. Kind of dark, olivey skinned. Gray had just begun to streak his temples, his build, Oh, he could look kind of like you there, Oedipus. Great, thanks, Mom. Oh, no. I think I've just called down a dreadful curse upon myself. Okay? He's not 100% sure yet. I simply didn't know. Didn't know what?
That was my dad.
That was my dad. That is, I didn't know applies to a lot of different things, right? That we find out within the course of the play. He didn't know Merope and Polybus were not his real parents, for example. He didn't know he was adopted. He didn't know when he came to this place and saw this older guy on a cart that was his father. Oops.
Do we ever get a reason why he killed him? Was it just like on board? Or was it just like there was a reason for it?
No, I mean, we are told. We'll get to that hopefully in a moment. Looks like it'll be Friday. Okay? So, I did, Jocasta, what do you mean? I shuddered to look at you. That is, something has happened to his face. And she's like, what's wrong, Oedipus? Go away. He says, I have a terrible fear the blind seer can see. I'll know in a moment. I'll know. I'll be sure. One thing more. She says, what? Laius. Did he go with a light or heavy escort? Several men at arms, like a lord? A king? Yeah, there were 5 in the party. A herald among them. And a single wagon carrying Laius. Now I can see it all. Clear as. Where does he see it all? In his memory. He's like, damn. That was me. I remember the guy in the wagon with an escort of 5 and a herald out in front. He doesn't say that, of course. Who told you all this? Servant, lone survivor. Okay. And he's in the palace? No. As soon as he came home and saw you, he asked if he could serve, be shepherd, as far away from the palace as possible. Oedipus, can we bring him back? Why? Why does he want to bring him back? What does Oedipus still need? Proof. He wants real proof. Okay? He's got a pretty good hunch now. And she says, yeah, I think so. But tell me what's torturing you. And so he does. And we get more exposition. My father was Polybus, king of Corinth. My mother a Dorian, Merope, and I was. And what does he go on and relate? He relates the party, he relates the drunk, he relates going to the oracle at Delphi. He relates on his way to Thebes, coming to a crossroads, killing, okay, somebody on a wagon. What's the difference between the two stories? And this is what he's hanging everything on. In his experience, it was Oedipus alone who killed the man in the wagon and his escort, all except one. In the story he's been told by Jocasta, there are multiple killers. They are thieves. Okay? So he's thinking, maybe somebody else. Maybe it wasn't me. So get the get the herald to come back. And he could be the proof. Because he was there. He would be the one to say, no, actually, it wasn't several people, it was only one. Line 899. But if there is any blood tie between Laius and this stranger, that is the one I killed, what man alive is more miserable than I? And what he really means is, if the one I killed was Laius, oh, I'm totally screwed. More hated by the gods, I am the man, no alien, no citizen, welcomes to his house, law forbids it, not a word to me in public, blah, 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 blah. Wasn't I born, line 910, for torment? Look me in the eyes. I am abomination, heart and soul. Why? Because of the two lines at the top of the page that I didn't refer to. And you, his wife, I've touched your body with these, my hands. Because what does he now accept? Almost 100%. I'm the killer of Laius. And I then married you. And we have children. What part does he not accept yet? Or does he not know or believe yet? I'm also Laius' son and your son. He just thinks, I killed your husband. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Okay? I must be exiled, even in exile, and never see my parents, who he believes are Polybus and Merope back in Corinth. Never set foot on native earth again, etc., etc. Okay? So they keep talking, and the leader says, so if we bring the guy back, he'll set your heart at ease. Oedipus, yeah, he's my last hope. He's crucial. Okay? Oedipus, if his story matches yours, I've escaped the worst. The worst, the prophecy. Right? She said, what do you mean? You said thieves. He told you a whole band of them murdered Laius. Jocasta. Could be. Okay? He said, no, it can't be you. Apollo was explicit. My son was doomed to kill my husband. My son. They destroyed him first. Okay? Court of law. Anybody know what the phrase habeas corpus refers to? Present the body. If there's a murder trial, 99% of the time, if no body is produced in evidence, that is, the body of the person alleged to be murdered, somebody's not going to be convicted. Because what the defendant will do is, hey, show me the body. Show me the body of the person I am alleged to have killed. And if the prosecutor can't do that, they've got a really, really good chance of getting off scot-free. Which is why, the mobsters used to bury people in cement foundations of buildings. It's kind of hard to produce the body. Now we have all kinds of stuff that can determine DNA and all that kind of stuff, even buried in cement. So, Oedipus says, If there were more than one, I cannot be the killer because one can equal many, etc. Oh, she says they destroyed him first. How does she know? She thinks her son was destroyed. Okay? So, put it in your world situation. Assume you're married, whether you're a man or woman. And it's not a same-sex marriage. Assume you're married and the gods give you a prophecy. And the prophecy is, you, the couple, are going to have a son, and the son is going to kill you, the husband, father, and is going to marry you and have children with you, the mother. Okay? Now, what they did was, after the child was 3 days old, they gave him to a shepherd to take him and leave him on a mountain. You ever heard the phrase, if you want a job done right, do it yourself? So what does that imply in that situation? Should have, as soon as a baby was born, slit its neck. Tied the cord around its neck and, tighten it. Kill it then and there, right? Or, because they had the practice, even in ancient Greece, abortion. Abort the little sucker. Just stop him from taking a breath at all. If the prophecy is something you accept as being possibly true, they don't do that. She doesn't have the visual proof that her son died. They never bring what's left of the body back to her. She just assumes because he was taken away. Okay? What happens with that assumption? It gets blown out of the water. So, Oedipus and Jocasta go inside the palace. They're going to talk a while. And the chorus is like, oh man, what are we going to do with this? Destiny, fate, all this kind of stuff. And a messenger comes in. Okay? After Jocasta comes out, and she says, Oedipus is inside. He's beside himself. He's just racked with guilt and such. And the messenger comes in. And the messenger says, I'm from Corinth. I bring good news. Good news for Oedipus. Okay? What's the good news? Polybus, Oedipus' father, is dead. So why is the messenger there? How's that good news? Your dad's dead. Well, he's going to be king of Corinth now. Okay? So Oedipus is brought out. And Jocasta says, see, told you, prophecy is meaningless. The prophecy told you would kill Polybus. Okay? So, Oedipus and Jocasta talk a bit, and we get on page 1469, the whole basis for Sigmund Freud's Oedipus complex, which is that every man secretly desires to kill his father and sleep with his mother, to replace his father in his mother's bed. And then there's another Greek play called Electra, where Freud takes a statement made in that play and comes up with what's called the Electra complex, where every woman secretly wants to replace her mother in her father's bed. Freud was really screwed up, in my opinion. Okay, so what does she say? Top of 1469. She goes, and about the prophecy stuff, about marrying and sleeping with your mother. 1073. As for this marriage with your mother, have no fear. Many a man before you in his dreams has shared his mother's bed. That's it. That's the whole basis for Freud creating this whole complex. Okay? She goes, shadows, nothing at all. Oedipus, you'd almost make me believe you if mother weren't still alive. He's thinking Merope back in Corinth. I can't go back to Corinth because the prophecy said I would sleep with her. Right? So he keeps talking, and the messenger's like, wait, who are you afraid of? Well, Merope, my mother. And what does the messenger tell him? She's not your mother. Polybus wasn't your father either. You were adopted. You didn't know that? The messenger says, 11:06, if you ran from them, always dodging home, you'd be covered with guilt from both your parents. He said, that's right. Don't you know? You were a gift many years ago, 11:17 or so. And I need to stop with so. Know for a fact, he took you from my hands. That is, Polybus, the former king, because he's now dead, of Corinth, took you as a baby from my hands. Okay? So you were adopted, Oedipus. And we will stop there. So we'll finish Oedipus on Friday. We'll have a quiz. And then we'll do Antigone after spring break. We will definitely have a quiz over all of Oedipus the King and the background of Greek theater and whatever I've talked about in class.